In Capital News tonight, President Samia Suluhu Hassan attends a SADC Extraordinary Summit in Mozambique. Minister of Finance and Planning, Dr. Mwigulu Nchemba, tables Finance Bill 2021 in Parliament. And in sports, SIMBA Sports Club coach praises his team after the 4-win win against Mbeya City. Good evening, this is Capital News at 9:30. My name is Nasma Mwambe. Let's get started with the national news. The President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Samia Suluhu Hassan, has participated in the Southern African Development Community (SADC) Extraordinary Heads of State and Government Summit in Maputo, Mozambique. More on the report.
The meeting discussed various agendas including integration of member countries, economic opportunities and security challenges. Addressing the summit, the chairman of SADC, President of Mozambique, Filipe Nyusi, said that concerted efforts from the member countries are needed to address the problem of terrorism facing the country, as it has been hindering development in Mozambique as well as other member countries. Issues of the coronavirus pandemic and establishment of an emergency center, climate change, food security and trade and investment in the region were among other issues discussed in the meeting. After the summit, President Samia Suluhu Hassan returned to Dodoma after winding up her 2-day official visit in Mozambique.
We are commemorating 40 years of SADC, but under difficult conditions as we face corona pandemic. Despite of the progress made to fight corona, future progress is not promising. The effects of corona continue to affect the economy in all our SADC countries. Today we're happy that in this journey we've met a lot of challenges, but we've also managed to face political, economic and social challenges. For 40 years we've understood the benefits of our community, although we realize that our objective has not been fully realized.
Minister of Finance and Planning, Dr. Mwigulu Nchemba, has tabled in Parliament the Doma the Finance Bill 2021, whereby he intends to amend 22 laws, which includes SIM card charges and property tax.
Mswada huu unakusudia kuzifanyia marekebisho sheria 22.
The bill is intending to make amendments of 22 laws on issues of finance, tax, levies and other charges for the aim of rectifying standards of taxes set in order to improve payments, procedures, collection of taxes and increase control in expenditure and income of some government institutions, reduce tax on income and employment by setting up good trade environment and investments so as to accelerate speed of economic growth and increase government revenues. The committee is proposing introduction of Tarura Fund so that its funds will be allocated directly. Again, the committee suggests if oil prices will fall at global markets, forcing oil prices to go down in the country, then 50% of funds collected should be taken to Tarura Fund. The government has decided to reduce boda fine from 30,000 shillings to 10,000 shillings. But, Honorable Chairman, the aim of these fines includes forcing a person who has broke the law to learn from the incident occurred. The act is to remind other drivers not to break road safety rules and regulations, and thirdly, prohibit someone from breaking laws. The move of reducing the fine will retard targets of fines.
The commander of the Traffic Police Force, SACP Wilbur Mutafungwa, has announced that checkpoints will be set up in all regions in order to inspect and identify buses which are violating passenger transportation regulations. He also ordered the owner of the Toyota Coaster bus, which has caused the death of 9 people on Tuesday night in Morogoro, to surrender himself to the police.
Tumeelekeza kuwepo kwa beria vizuizi vya barabarani.
We've instructed road barriers to be put up in all regions, identified to have this type of transport, In these areas, there will be traffic police and from other departments, and we will work together.
Askari wa idara nyingine.
President of Zanzibar and the chairman of the Liberation Council, Dr. Hussein Mwinyi, has expressed dissatisfaction on performance of some leaders and executives and said they lacked creativity in coming up with development plans for citizens as they waited to be given instructions from the State House. President Dr. Mwinyi made a statement when addressing public servants at the climax of Public Servant Day in Zanzibar. I have noticed that we have a serious problem of lack of creativity. Leaders have not planned to ensure sector development plans in the institutions that they lead. Some leaders are waiting for the White House to plan development plans for the sectors that they lead. Use the innovations to plan, design and advise instead of just criticizing. There are still those who continue to ignore the complaints of the people against them. I want them to stop the practice immediately, and strict actions will be taken against those found to be doing so. I am not surprised because you care about the people of Zanzibar, and we have been saying that the responsibility you had is exemplary. You have built discipline in various institutions. There are various institutional managers who have been given the task of overseeing the system. They have been taking it easy. And to show you that we are serious about this issue, I have already written the letter to the two heads of institutional staff who neglected to work on the issue raised in their institutions so that actions could be taken. The police force Dar es Salaam Special Zone has shot dead 2 robbers during a fire exchange when they were trying to get away on a motorbike.
When they found out that they were followed by police, they began shooting at the police. However, the police officers did not hesitate. They kept on following them, where the criminals fell from a motorbike and started running, while they kept on shooting 2 police officers. In efforts of protecting themselves, police officers had to shoot at the criminals, who were wounded in several parts of their bodies. That was when the police managed to arrest them and took them to hospital, where a few hours later they lost their lives. As they were arrested, a pistol was recovered.
Hii ni sawa na shilingi 10,000.
2 million shillings will be given to anybody who will bring to us valid information of armed robbers. We can communicate through 0715 009983.
Lazima ziwezeshe kukamatwa na si kukamatwa tu, ziwezeshe pia kupatikana kwa silaha hiyo.
Commissioner General of the Drugs Control and Enforcement Authority, Gerard Gusaya, has said that Tanzania has no plans to allow marijuana farming and has called on Tanzania instead to venture into other productive crops. Statistics shows that 13 tons of marijuana was seized and 7,600 suspects arrested after being implicated in the marijuana trade in 2020.
Sheria yetu mama bado iko pale pale.
The main law is still there. We have not legalized farming of marijuana in the country. Because there are no any legal amendments, we do not expect anyone to cultivate the drug. I want people to know that countries that have allowed cultivation of a certain variety of marijuana, and not just cultivating, because there are almost 20 variants of marijuana plants. Reports shows that globally marijuana is a leading drug. In 2018, the drug was used by more than 200 people. A total of 28 farms with 26.2 hectares where 34 people were arrested and the farms destroyed according to the law. People are invited at Nyerere Square to learn a lot of things at the event.
Stakeholders have said that Tanzania can invest more on ensuring there is reliable power by looking for new energy sources as well as investing in power generating technology that can turn garbage from home into energy.
Zaidi ni kwamba tutatengeneza sasa ajira mpya, maana sasa majumbani taka zitakuwa sasa sio uchafu tena, itakuwa taka sasa wanazigeuza taka kuwa mali.
And we are also very much looking into issues of climate change, sustainable energy, all this in order to improve the livelihoods of the Tanzanian population, the youth in particular, and in particular young women and girls. So we do believe that there is definitely a potential for such a collaboration.
And that is the end of the national news. International news comes next after the break. Welcome back, and now in international news. Mauritania's former president Mohamed Ould Abdelaziz has been jailed after a judge in charge of corruption probe ordered his incarceration. More on the report.
The former leader says he is being persecuted in a bid to keep him out of politics, but has vowed he would not go into exile. Aziz has twice gone before a magistrate investigating the case since the charges, including money laundering, were brought in March. The move comes days after the former leader refused to continue reporting to police after being put under house arrest. Aziz ruled the conservative West African state from 2008 to mid-2019, when he was succeeded by his former right-hand man and ex-defense minister Mohamed Ould Sheikh Al-Ghazouani.
Uganda continues to take restrictive measures against the coronavirus. Long queues of lorries carrying cargo have been seen along the Busia border between Kenya and Uganda, with the drivers complaining that the situation has been caused by delayed results of COVID-19 tests. This time, we will not accept any talks with the government just for the sake of holding hands. They made me very happy. Women were raped and children were being killed. With COVID infection numbers dropping across the board, the EU is daring to look beyond the pandemic. What can and will be done to help economies their bounce back from the economic and social fallout of the pandemic? DW reporter Nicole Florridge has the latest. Now, Nicole, the EU chief has been touring member states, greenlighting national COVID recovery plans. What will post-pandemic investment focus on?
Well, the EU itself says that this is more than a recovery plan, that it's a historic chance to sustainably transform our economies to help them emerge stronger from the pandemic. And that is something they're willing to spend 750 billion euros on. The aim is to make European states greener, more digital, and more resilient towards future challenges of this magnitude. Over the past months, almost all member states have been presenting their national plans. And this week, we're seeing EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen shake a lot of hands and congratulate a lot of leaders on their proposals. After approval, the different states will receive a first payment to help them kickstart the recovery. This is all being done with a lot of fanfare, not only because this is, along with the EU's long-term budget, the largest stimulus package ever financed in Europe, but also because the EU is going through a bit of an image crisis. A recent poll revealed that based on its handling of the pandemic, large parts of Europeans regard the EU project as broken.
Meanwhile, the EU has decided to extend vaccine export controls. What more can you tell us about that?
The mechanism was initially set to expire at the end of June, but has now been extended until at least the end of September. That means that the EU will continue to be able to stop pharmaceutical companies from exporting vaccines to non-member states if they haven't met their supply commitments with the EU. So far, the mechanism was triggered only once, back in March, to block 250,000 doses of AstraZeneca from being shipped to Australia. The EU's vaccination drive has since picked up pace. Supplies are coming in more smoothly, so there hasn't really been the necessity to fall back on such drastic moves that can, after all, have dramatic diplomatic consequences. But with this extension, the EU makes two things very clear: that they don't see themselves as out of the woods just yet, and that they want to keep all their options wide open to make sure they meet their goal of inoculating at least 70% of the EU's adult population by the end of the summer.
So what about plans to increase access to vaccines in less developed regions?
Well, as most richer countries continue to mostly look out for themselves, concerns about unequal access to vaccines are, of course, growing. But plans to increase regional capacities, for example, in Africa, are starting to take shape now. The WHO announced on Monday that South Africa will open a technology transfer center for mRNA vaccines. If all goes well, the new hub could start producing in no more than 12 months. More sites are also planned in other countries like Senegal, Rwanda, and possibly Nigeria. This has been hailed as great news by the South African president and the head of the WHO, because Africa is still the region with the least access to vaccines. Only 2% of the population has so far been inoculated. But with infections tripling or even quadrupling in past weeks, this is not the emergency fix that is needed for a problem that, frankly, the international community has long known about. So much more than a solution for the current crisis, this is an investment in preparedness for the future.
Thank you, Nicole, for the update. Until next time, and that is the end of the international news. Business comes next after the break.
We ended with a positive note, and let's hope we start with a positive note as we continue the discussion on the budget.
And now, the moment you induce this kind of taxes, what you are saying actually is the economic principle that teaches us that taxes have psychological implications and behavioral factors from the behavioral economics.
For you, at least three things that you'd like to advise the government.
It's very important that in growing the economy, the PPP policies, public-public partnership policies, are fast-tracked, of course, with a cautious eye, to make sure that the private sector will play a great role, at the same time making sure the mass prosperity is being handled very well.
Business Edition on Friday at 8:15 p.m.
Welcome back, and now in business news. The Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of Industry and Trade, Dr. James, has called on women in the country to look for opportunities in natural resources available in the country to empower themselves economically.
Ndugu washiriki, kauli mbiu ya mafunzo haya ya mwaka 2021 inasema mafunzo ya mwanamke mjasiriamali kujiwezesha kiuchumi.
Historia inatuambia mafanikio yoyote yale ya uchumi, ya kielimu, kijamii na kadhalika yanatokana na wanawake. Kwa Tanzania, 53% ya wakazi ni wanawake. Ndio tegemeo la uzalishaji wa mazao, uvuvi na ujasiriamali.
Tanzania Revenue Authority in Kilimanjaro region has been advised to implement a verification exercise at the big and medium markets following claims of tax evasion done by some big traders who have been using identification card meant for small traders to avoid paying taxes.
Watu wa kwenye masoko
haya ya kwenye halmashauri zetu.
People have enough capital for business, but they're in the market identifying themselves as entrepreneurs. These people would have been searched and educated about tax payment. They would have paid very large taxes. If the council cooperated with TRA to provide education, then they would understand their role in paying taxes. There are great businessmen with more than 100 million returns, but he is wearing an entrepreneur's ID, which is denial of government income. After in-depth analysis, I have discovered the issue in my council. I have cooperated with the TRA people and the director of Moshi municipality. We want to make analysis. We have given instructions to all county executives through TRA and are going to do a thorough research. There has been a wave of unscrupulous traders who write letters and bring them to our offices that he has closed the business and that at that time his business has been transferred home. And in the past, when IDs were sold without due process, people used to own a lot of IDs. But he uses these IDs for young people to take the business to the streets, and it seemed to give them a lot of tax relief. So many businessmen have moved there, and we have received those letters, but the government has created a favorable environment for identifying small business that are eligible to own entrepreneurs' ID. Farmers have been urged to venture into millet, beans and sunflower farming as the crops have reliable markets in and outside of the country in agro-processing industries. We have previously been importing sorghum to support our breweries, which need a lot of sorghum. We have been producing 1,043,000 tons, and the total demand is 232 million. This is an opportunity for our farmers. Although production has increased in our country from 205,000 tons to 290,000 tons, but the gap has been so great, we need to produce seeds to cooperate with companies so that we can reach more farmers. Research centers are working to create a timely seed that responds to current challenges. And that's it for the business news. Sports comes next after the break.
Away first time, good start from Bolt. Bolt leading a moment of going away. Gay trying to go with him, and he's being dragged through to second place, but he's going to win it by 2 meters. Away first time, good start from Bolt. Bolt leading a moment of going away. Gay trying to go with him, and he's being dragged through to second place, but he's going to win it by 2 meters. Position, Marquinhos, he did lose to Lynn.
Welcome back, and now in sports. SIMBA Sports Club head coach Didier Gomez de Rosa has praised his team's performance in the 4-1 win against Bear City last night at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium in Dar es Salaam.
If I have a reproach to make to my team, it is we play too much relax in the second half, particularly in the second half. We lose a lot of ball, we give a lot of ball to the opponent, and we need to correct that. I can understand we were winning, but you know we need to be more rigorous, more disciplined, particularly when we are in front in terms of result. You know, really we lose too many balls and we need to correct that. And it was the first time, so I don't want to blame my player, and the win is good for one.
Nigeria midfielder Ochewechi Oche has confirmed mainland Premier League champion Simba Sports Club are keen to acquire his services. Here are more details.
The towering player, who turns out for Nigerian side Plateau United, has revealed them Simbazi Giants approached him and is currently discussing a possible transfer with his manager. Plateau United spokesperson Albert Dakup also said they have been following the Tanzanian league closely, as they have received an offer for their midfielder from a host of clubs, including Simba.
Egypt Football Association President Ahmed Megahed has insisted that Mohamed Salah wants to play in the Olympics and will try to convince Liverpool to let him go within the next 48 hours. Here are more details.
He was one of the two overage players included in the Egypt professional squad for the Summer Games, with Arsenal's Mohamed El Neni also making the final cut, but Liverpool have not yet given their consent for the forward to link up with his country. Megahed has been working to try and ensure Salah's participation for many months and claims that the 29-year-old is determined to reach an agreement with Anfield officials before the end of the week. The Egypt FA chief told On Time Sport he doesn't want to say that it is impossible for Salah to participate in the Olympics, but it is difficult.
More than 60,000 fans will be allowed to Wembley for the semi-finals and finals of the Euro 2020 after a deal was struck between the UK government and UEFA. Here's more.
The biggest crowds at a British sporting event for 16 months are now in prospect, although details of who will be able to attend the matches and how remain unresolved. Wembley is to be allowed to open up to 75% of its 90,000 capacity for the 3 games scheduled to be played on 6th, 7th and 11th of July respectively. It means there will be at least 35,000 extra tickets made available for the climax of the tournament. The government says it expects that priority of access will be given to UK residents who had their tickets cancelled when the capacity was first cut due to the pandemic.
And that sports item ends our news bulletin for tonight. Thank you for watching and good night.